An action-packed and penalty-filled race saw Carlos Sainz triumph for the second time this season. Tempers ran high, with Liam Lawson running afoul of Sergio Perez and both Ferrari drivers, while McLaren and Lando Norris finally took the challenge to Max Verstappen, successfully using the penalty system against him. But was it too little too late? We'll have to head to South America to find out. But the road out of Mexico is at a standstill. So you might as well cool those brakes. Tune into the relaxing tones of Traffic Paradise Radio and chill with us for a while.
Nice paradise, like traffic paradise. What is this one?
Hello and welcome to Traffic Paradise Radio. I'm Uno, and joining me today are Immy.
Hi.
And Niamh.
Hi.
How you doing? Did you enjoy the race?
Well, it was good. It was good action, but did I enjoy it? Probably not.
Yeah, it was a good race, but not good for me personally. Both my drivers out at turn 1, lap 1.
Ow.
Not very fun.
Yeah, it was painful, not gonna lie. But still a lot of action, a lot of intrigue, a lot of drama, which we're going to get into very shortly. But before we do that, if you enjoy listening to Traffic Paradise Radio, please leave us a like and consider subscribing. It means a lot to us. And you mean a lot to us too. And we appreciate you, and we appreciate you subscribing. It also means you won't miss out on hearing our Paradise and Purgatory candidates of the week, which we will get into now. So, Immy, would you like to start us off? Who is your Purgatory candidate of the week?
Now, it took me quite a while to settle on somebody or something for the candidate, but I've gone with Mercedes Development, because we have seen, since they brought the upgrade package in Austin, that car loses the back end so easily. So many spins in Austin. We had George crashing in Austin and again in Mexico. And I personally think it's less on him and it's much more on the car being very uncontrollable. Just both Lewis and George to be making so many mistakes is very uncharacteristic in such a short span of time. And the fact that in the race, George, I'm pretty sure, was starting with the Miami spec and Lewis had the Austin spec, and yet it took Lewis around 12 laps to overtake George. That doesn't seem like a car that's developed in a strong, good direction.
Yeah, it was quite impressive actually that George was managing to be ahead of Lewis for so long on an older spec, but it gave us such nice, clean racing between the two of them. I loved it whenever the cameras cut to them. It was just so nice compared to the rest of the race where it was just chaos.
The fight between George and Lewis was very interesting to watch because it's so different to the kind of racing we've seen this year so far. It was, what's the right way to say it? I don't want to say it was like orderly because that makes it sound boring. I found it quite compelling, but it was also clean racing. There wasn't dodginess going on.
Like, classy?
Classy, yeah, that's it. It was classy. I said sounding so unclassy. Yeah. But I think Immy's point, if I heard you correctly, is that it shouldn't have taken that long because Lewis had the upgrades, correct?
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah. So something happened there because with those upgrades, Lewis should have been able to get past quite easily. We saw a lot of overtaking this weekend, and it seems odd to me that Lewis wasn't able to do it as quickly as we might have expected him to do it. Now, that partly could have been because he was just, as we say, keeping it clean. I think he learned from his experience with Nico Rosberg not to overdo it when it comes to racing your teammate. It's important that you bring both cars home, And I do wonder if Mercedes still makes them pay for the damages out of their own salary. That might be, I mean, I know Lewis Hamilton has a ton of money. It probably won't hurt his bank account very much, but still, it's something to consider. That might have played a part in it. But yeah, I do think something has happened with their upgrades, with their development, and they've sort of maybe hit a plateau and haven't quite got it right. Because earlier on in the season, it did seem like they had turned a corner. So very sad. A very good candidate, Immy. Thank you. Niamh, would you like to tell us your candidate for Purgatory?
My candidate is Oscar Piastri. He's only in his second year. Mistakes are going to be up there. He's had an incredible season so far, but between his qualifying this weekend and his qualifying in the sprint last weekend, and just he seems to be struggling a bit. I don't know if it's with the car or if he's just struggling in general with maybe the tracks, but he seems to be losing it a little bit, and I hope we can see him back to his full leading the pack standard in Brazil.
Holding my head in my hands through that, but it's not wrong. I have a 2-weekend crying streak because of this man being eliminated in Q1 or SQ1, which was better because sprints don't matter. Yeah, it's been sketchy, hasn't it? Oscar wasn't great in the Americas last year either. It's just not a section of the world he agrees with, I guess. But he will have the fully upgraded McLaren in Brazil, so hopefully we'll see him at least in Q3. That's where I'm placing my hopes.
Oscar not making Q3 is super surprising, and I think it actually denotes how strong his season has been that it was such a shock. Because I think he's the only driver who was able to get into Q3 up until this point, obviously. Well, the only one who was consistently getting into Q3. So,
Yeah, he had a beautiful streak, and it's gone now.
but yeah, I think it sometimes you need that dip in form to highlight how good you've actually been. Because people tend to take it for granted. And when you don't do it, they sort of sit up and take notice and go, hey, hold on, but we expected so much from him, and maybe that's a good thing that we do expect so much from Oscar. So a fair candidate for Purgatory, but I also think that it does sort of reveal how good he's been this year. So Immy, don't take it too harshly.
Yeah, I'm living with it.
Yeah. We will now move on to my candidate. And I'm not actually going to use my own words here. I'm going to read you 3 statements, one from Checo Perez, one from Helmut Marko, and one from Christian Horner. And they all relate to my candidate for Purgatory, who is Liam Lawson. So first up, Checo Perez had this to say about his interaction with Liam Lawson. I think the way he has come to Formula One, I don't think he has the right attitude for it. He needs to be a bit more humble. When a 2-time world champion was saying things last weekend, he completely ignored him. It's like when you come to Formula One, you're obviously very hungry and so on, but you have to be respectful as well, off track and on track. I don't think he's showing the right attitude. I think he's a great driver, and I hope for him that he can step back and learn from it. In his first 2 Grand Prix, he has had many incidents. I think there will be a point where it can cost him too much, like it did this weekend. I just think that he has to have the right attitude to say, look, probably I'm overdoing it a little bit. I will step back and start again. Because if you don't learn from your mistakes, Formula One is a brutal world, and he might not continue. Helmut Marko had this to say: we are sister teams, and Lawson should not drive as hard as he did. Checo's car was far from competitive because his car was badly damaged. Christian Horner said this about Liam: he apologized to Checo for the incident. Obviously, there will be lessons to come from that, but it is frustrating for Checo's race to pick up the damage because he lost valuable points today. I'm not going to elaborate on that. I think everyone is well aware what went down and how it worked out for Liam Lawson. But I would like to hear from, let's start with Niamh first. What did you think about Liam's drive yesterday?
If we look at just purely the drive, it was quite impressive for me personally. The rest of it, maybe not so much. I think Liam has a lot of talent. I'm really happy he's in Formula One. He was one of the first drivers that I was aware of that wasn't like directly on the grid. So I'll always support him a little bit because of that. But when Fernando Alonso and Checo Perez and Helmut Marko are saying these things about you, when Helmut's been his like biggest supporter for like the last year, when everyone's saying these things about you, you need to sit down, listen, and shut up.
For me, the fact that Liam's apology, he said that he, as in Checo, spent half the lap blocking me trying to ruin my race. It's just a certain level of immaturity, because what do you think he's going to do? Defend his position in a race? Yeah, I think Checo's going to try and defend his position in a race. That's not ruining your race. I understand heat of the moment stuff, right? You shouldn't judge Liam just on this one action, but I just didn't like how he viewed it in his apology, trying to blame Checo for ruining his race by racing. Is just bizarre.
I'll just add this. I think that the individual things that happened in the race that Liam did, I don't have a problem with that. For me, it's the lack of awareness of how he's doing it and where he's doing it. Flipping the bird to a driver, it can happen in the heat of the moment. I'm not gonna like cry about that. It happens. Like, I don't care about that. I don't care about contact in a race. I don't care about bold driving that sort of challenges the limits. That's cool. That's fun. It's exciting to watch. But I think he needs to realize where he is right now. He's got, I think it's 6 races to his name and 4 points in his entire F1 career. And there seems to be a sense of entitlement coming from him that he's got this Red Bull seat in the bag. And that is not the case at right now, especially after this weekend. So I think he just needs to understand where he's coming from. Also to, there's such politics around Checo being in Red Bull and how that affects like the not the South American, well, South American market as well, but more like the Latin American market. And obviously the market within Mexico itself. And that there is a fandom attached to Checo that Red Bull gets a lot of money from. So you want to take over Checo's seat and also disrespect him in front of his home crowd. That's not going to sit well with the Red Bull fandom, and it's not going to sit well with important people within Red Bull. And if he wants that seat, he needs to start thinking long-term, big picture, not just, I need to get past this person or I need to block this person in the race. Because you got to pick your battles, bro. Pick your battles. You can't be doing this. It looks bad. And for once, we leave a weekend where, despite the fact that he crashed out twice, Yuki Tsunoda is not being spoken about. No one's spoken about Yuki's temper. No one's spoken about anything like that. It's all Liam, 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 Liam. And that's a problem, because this is not the narrative he should want. And last week, I sent him to paradise, but this week it's purgatory, I'm afraid. So with that said, Mercedes, Oscar Piastri, Liam Lawson, you are sentenced to purgatory to atone for your sins on and off the track. May the gods of motorsport have mercy on your souls. So, after sending those devilish candidates down to purgatory, we shall now uplift some candidates to paradise.
I'm here to cancel out Niamh's purgatory pick, so I'm picking Oscar for paradise. Purely for, just let's ignore quality, right? His recovery drive. He made it from P17 to P8, And I think if McLaren ever practiced the strategy of not boxing Oscar like 5 laps too late, it would have been 7 or 6. But we'll move on. And all of his racing and all of his overtaking was clean and tidy, unlike the Austin sprint where he got a penalty. it was just what he could have done with what he had. Granted, it wasn't a great position. He put himself in that position, but he made it through the field and he avoided any incident, any contact, and this was a pretty contact heavy race. So I think that's an achievement.
Niamh, your thoughts on Immy reversing your decision to send Oscar to Purgatory?
Well, you do make a good few points. Like Uno said earlier, I think it shows just how good a driver he is, that people were disappointed with him going out in Q3 when he's only in his second year. He's performed amazingly throughout the season. I just hope he can get back to it.
I thought Oscar's recovery drive was impressive. Obviously, he would have hoped to be higher up and to be able to work with Lando to challenge Ferrari, because that seems to now be who McLaren are fighting against. And I can understand the disappointment, but yeah, I think he did well to recover the way he did. He kept it clean, he kept his head down, and he moved his way up through the pack. As you say, in a race where there were many incidents, he sort of really you didn't see him much. And that's good. That's good. There was one radio message from him which sort of people noted, which was very uncharacteristic from him, I would say.
It was funny.
It was very funny to hear him swear. I don't think I've ever heard Oscar swear before, so that was funny. Yeah, but good for him for, you know what, he took a knock on Saturday and he came back strong on Sunday. You can't win them all, but you have to keep fighting, and that's what he showed. So good for him. Our first ever dual Paradise and Purgatory candidate.
We have to
Congratulations,
cut him in half.
Oscar, making history. Well, I just think if you're halfway between Paradise and Purgatory, you basically just stay on Earth. So
yeah, I guess they just kind of cancel each other out then. Okay, I'll put the saws away.
So Oscar, enjoy your stay on Earth. Perhaps book yourself into a hotel, get yourself a nice spa day. Think about how you can improve things. Okay. Niamh, would you like to tell us your Paradise candidate of the week?
My Paradise candidate is Franco Colapinto. He has been outstanding since he replaced Logan Sargent. He seems to be picking up everything so quickly. And apart from a minor mishap, which did land him with a 10-second penalty, but we're not talking about that, he had a pretty decent weekend overall, and I really, really hope we see him on the grid next year. I don't care if it's in that a bright green Sauber, Audi, whatever it is next year. I don't care if he's in that and he's sitting right at the back. I am going to support him, and I hope if he doesn't stay in F1 for next year, I hope he gets a drive in a high level instead of going back to, I don't know, F2 or something. But yeah, he just had a great weekend overall. Great since he got in the car, and that's why I think he deserves to be in Paradise.
Yeah, I think a really interesting stat is that in all of Franco's races, he hasn't finished lower than P12. Given everything that can happen, midfield team, midfield car, that is some insane consistency, even though it's a really small sample size. So props to him there. I will say, I was scared when I was watching it, but Oscar and Franco's wheel to wheel was fun as well. So I think Franco's a really good racer, and I will be very sad if he's not on the grid next year.
Not to mention Liam again, but I do feel like if you look at how Franco has been viewed by the other drivers, especially the more senior drivers, how they speak about him, his driving style, his defense. I remember Checo saying, "Oh, you can't get past this guy. He's so good." I just think he's definitely proven that he deserves to be here. And I agree with you, Niamh. Even if it's in a terrible green kick Sauber, what, go for it, boy. Do your thing, because you're You're doing nothing but good things. And yeah, the incident with Liam, I kind of feel that was a bit on both of them. Racing incident almost. Liam did sort of take the damage for that, so I can understand why the stewards decided the way they did. But yeah, I think, Liam was a bit too elbows out this race anyway, so he probably could have done more to avoid that. And maybe it was just sort of karma coming back to him for what he did to Perez. Who knows? But I think a very good candidate nonetheless. And finally, my candidate for Paradise is Kevin Magnussen. K-Mag has been on a brilliant streak of late. He has climbed in the driver's standings. He's currently now only 10 points behind Yuki Tsunoda, or possibly 8 points. I need to double check that. And he has done a very good job in the twilight of his career. We all know he doesn't have a drive for next year, and we kind of expected to see more of early season K-Mag in these last few races. Driving like a maniac, doing whatever he can to get Nico into the points, to help Nico and Haas maximize their points haul every weekend. But instead, he's been the lead driver for a few races now, and I feel like as much as I didn't like the way he drove earlier on in the season, I really appreciate his form at the moment, and I think that he deserves the praise. He almost caught Max Verstappen in the race. Towards the end of the race, he was closing in on Max Verstappen in a Haas. Now, that's a whole different story as to whether or not the Red Bull is actually on the same level as a Haas at the moment, and that speaks more to Red Bull's development. But I think it also speaks to Haas's development, and K-Mag is making the most out of that car at the moment, and he deserves all the praise for it. So yeah, my candidate, K-Mag.
Yeah, like you said, I think we're getting a lot more of early K-Mag. Because he got a podium on debut, did he not? He ended up P2 after a disqualification ahead of him, which is, like, ridiculous. Like, imagine being, like, put in an F1 car. You do your first race and you finish on the podium. It's like, him and Lewis Hamilton are the only two I can think of that have had anything like that, which is, I kind of wish we had him back before, because maybe he would have a drive next year, but I guess we'll never know.
All I have to say is, man, does that Haas have gas. That car is so fast now. K-Mag is doing a very, very good job driving it, but oh my god, the development of that car.
Niamh, I just wanted to confirm that you were absolutely correct. At his first race in 2014, he was driving for McLaren in the Australian Grand Prix, and he came second. Absolutely. Very impressive drive from K-Mag.
I knew there was something like that. I remembered reading it. I think it was Jensen Button talking about it. I just remember reading that and it stuck with me for some reason.
Yeah, and who won that race, actually? Oh, he beat Jensen Button.
There was a disqualification or something, and Jensen ended up, if he was finished 5th, he ended up 4th, or he finished 4th and ended up on the podium. Because he talked about it at one point in one of his books, because I was reading it a couple days ago.
Oh, it looks like Lewis Hamilton and Daniel Ricciardo. Oh, no, that's qualifying, sorry. I'm not looking properly. Who was
I think it was
disqualified?
Daniel that got disqualified.
Daniel, illegal fuel flow. Oh gosh, his Red Bull dramas just never ended, did they, Shane Bogart? Okay. Yeah, looks like it. Oh my goodness, there were so many retirements that race. I need to go and watch that on F1 TV. I need to go watch that race. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 retirements and a disqualification and a not classified Marussia. My goodness, that sounds like a race to enjoy. I shall go back and watch that. But yeah, beating Jensen Button, a world champion, and your teammates, so in equal machinery on your debut, very impressive. Very impressive indeed. That's a stat I did not know. So thank you for that, Niamh. I will go back and I will check it out. Okay, so Oscar Piastri, Franco Colapinto, Kevin Magnussen. For pleasing the gods of motorsport, you are granted entrance into paradise. Ascend. Wait, not you, Oscar. You stay here.
Oh dear.
We'd love to hear your choices for Paradise and Purgatory of the week. So leave us a comment below and let us know. We have a couple more points from the weekend we wanted to talk about, starting with Max's engine issues in free practice 1 and 2. Immy, you want to tell us a bit more about that?
They thought they figured it out after free practice 1, but then he had issues again in the second practice and basically did not go out after George is off. They did not go out and finish the session. And now they swapped the engine out for the race with another one that was in the pool, so they did not take a grid penalty, which, I mean, it was sort of one to forget for Max anyway. But word on the street now is that they're assessing whether or not to take a 5-place penalty for Brazil. I assume they have to replace one part in the engine that is faulty, obviously, because that's 5 places. But that could make Brazil another sort of unimpactful race for Max, because he doesn't have the car to come through the field, not even the way he did in Spa, I think. With the way Ferrari has come up and Mercedes are there sometimes, and McLaren, there's so much competition that even a 5-place penalty may really sort of ruin his race. So that would be exciting to look out for.
Another rather sad note to the weekend was that Yuki Tsunoda crashed out of Q2. Very unfortunate. He was super promising all weekend up to that point. It really seemed like he was going to easily get into Q3 and possibly even challenge some of the bigger teams for P6 or P5 in qualifying. But unfortunately, as I said, he crashed out and it got even worse from there. Niamh, do you want to tell us more about that?
As I mentioned earlier, Alex and Yuki made contact at turn 1, lap 1. Both of them, heavy damage, couldn't even get out the corner. It wasn't anyone's fault in particular. They were 3 wide into the corner. Gasly was involved. I think he squeezed Alex, and then ended up contacting Yuki, and then it was just a bit of a mess all around, but I was gutted. Favourite drivers out, just like that.
I may have shed a tear in that moment. I will not lie. It was very painful to watch.
Oh, that's so real. One of my IRL friends comforted me after quali because I was like so sad about it. She's like, bad things come in threes. I was like, okay, yeah, so the race is going to be great then. Yeah, I feel it. And then Yuki crashes out straight away. Okay, I've been lied to. It made for a very sick picture though. That photographer, oh my god, the nerve.
There are very few photos that go as hard as that one. And I don't even think it's a photo. I think it's like a screen grab of like the live feed or something. Because that was a cameraman. I don't think that was like a photographer. I think it was a cameraman that was standing there that got that. And it's so cool. It's such a cool angle. That guy, I'm sure his arm almost got taken off by that crash because he was so close to that car. He was very lucky that he wasn't injured. But we do applaud you, Mr. Cameraman, for your bravery and your skill because that was awesome. From that Yuki and Alex contact, Alonso unfortunately got some of that debris stuck in his brake duct, and that rather ruined his 400th Grand Prix, which is very sad for him. But I'm sure he'll be around for another 400 more, so he'll get another go. And from Alonso's bad luck to a whole bunch of bad luck for a whole bunch of other people, we saw many penalties given out. Checo got a 5-second penalty for a false start, which really wasn't a false start. He had actually just missed his mark. He didn't actually start. He didn't false start. He just stopped his car too far ahead of the line. Max Verstappen got 10 seconds for forcing Lando Norris off track and 10 seconds for leaving and gaining an advantage. And Franco received 10 seconds for causing a collision. So, what do we think about those things?
Penalty heavy. And free Franco, he did nothing wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the way that Max used his penalty was quite smart, actually. But also, it seemed more because I think Daniel got a penalty for forcing someone off the track in Singapore, maybe? He only got 5 seconds for that.
I think it was Monza. Yeah, no, I saw a graphic of somebody who'd compiled all of the penalties, and forcing off the track has been 5 seconds for so long, and now it's 10 seconds. I think some people are trying to create a narrative around that. I don't know. The stewards are different at every race, so to an extent, the stewarding is going to be different, which is something I think the drivers want to address.
I think the stewards deserve a break.
I believe that the reason it was 10 seconds for each was because they were successive penalties in that they happened on the same lap. So it was like one
Interesting.
after the other. So it was like, it wasn't just like a whoops and then 5 minutes later another whoops. It was like a whoops. So that's very technical language there. I hope you all can follow it.
It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
so I believe that's why he was given the 10 seconds. But yeah, it's a little bit odd, but quite frankly, like, I'm happy to see that they're addressing it, because Max can take it a bit too far sometimes. And he does tend to use the penalty system against his rivals. And I think McLaren kind of picked up on that and were able to kind of meet him halfway this week, because yeah, Lando learned from last week and he was able to sort of not get the penalty himself this time round. So there's a bit of a evolution there in how that penalty system is being used to win the drivers' championship, which is quite interesting. And finally, the big story of the weekend was that Carlos Sainz won another race for Ferrari. He's become the 6th driver to win multiple races this season, a historic number, and also he did it quite convincingly. So, Niamh, any thoughts on Carlos's win?
It was a pretty dominant Ferrari win. I'm not the biggest Ferrari fan out there, but there's just something about them. Everyone's a Ferrari fan and all that, but also it was a pretty dominant win. It was so very nearly a 1-2, and yeah, 6 drivers have won multiple Grand Prix in a season for the first time since 1981, which is like forever ago.
That's super impressive. That's like, finally we have a statistic that's older than me. I think also on top of that, Immy, maybe you want to talk about this a bit, is that with Carlos's win and Charles coming P3, Ferrari were able to overtake Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship.
Yeah, it was a big point swing in Ferrari's favour. Now, Ferrari are only 29 points away from McLaren in the constructors, so it's really not all done, and it won't be done until the last race, I think. So, drivers' championship, this and that. The real ones are excited about the constructors. Me, I'm excited. I like this. I like the freeway fight. It's fun. It's so fun.
Before we recorded, I put a little poll up on Twitter. It didn't get that many votes, only got 55 votes, but I just thought, how are people feeling about the constructors? Who do they think is going to win it? And according to the poll, very scientific poll, basically only asking Yuki Tsunoda supporters what they think, but 44%
Very
of
unbiased.
people, yeah, very unbiased, 44% of people thought McLaren would win, only 9% of people thought Red Bull would win, and 47% of people thought Ferrari would win. Which means that I would say that McLaren and Ferrari are essentially tied there. I think there's only a difference of 1 or 2 votes between that, given it was only 55 people who voted. So basically, people are seeing the McLaren Ferrari fight as coming down to the wire, which will make Abu Dhabi so interesting. And we will yet again have a big decisive race in Abu Dhabi, which is super exciting and I think very good for the sport.
I proudly voted for Ferrari in that poll. As much as I love Oscar, I am a Ferrari fan first and foremost.
Yeah, I'm hoping Ferrari win it, hey? And even though it means I'll lose points in our end of year predictions, I don't care. Like, it's been too long. Ferrari needs that glory back. It's time.
Yeah, like you were saying, our end of year predictions. Back when we did them, it was like Ferrari wasn't even an option. Like in my mind, it was always going to be Red Bull or it was going to be McLaren. And lots of people online seem to be agreeing with my thought process that Charles had a really, really unlucky run of races. Had he had them, they would have been further on, it would have been more realistic. And now all of a sudden, all those people who were saying, oh, we're going to come last, we're going to come last, they're like, we have a chance, we have a chance, come on, come on. The amount of Forza Ferrari that I have seen all over everything, it's actually amazing.
Yeah, I think some of us got a bit burnt for Forzaing too hard in our predictions earlier on in the season, so we declined to Forza anymore, and we are perhaps paying the price for that. And speaking about our predictions, next it is yet again time to look back at our predictions and see who came out on top in the inaugural Traffic Paradise Radio Competition Prediction Points Championship thing.
We should come up with a better name for that.
And indeed we will, and we shall. Okay, let's recap our predictions from last week. Immy, what did you predict?
I predicted a McLaren 1-2, P1 Lando, P2 Oscar, with Charles in P3. And my wild card was that Max would DNF. And so I have a lonely 1 point haul.
A point can make all the difference at the end of the season. So congratulations,
For real.
Immy. Niamh, who did you predict?
I had predicted Lando to win, George Russell to come P2, and Charles to finish P3. Then I predicted radio drama between teams fighting for the championship, which we had on lap 11 out of 71. Glorious.
Okay, congratulations. So you pick up 2 points. And my predictions were rather tragic. I said that Norris would win, Leclerc would come second, and Perez, of all people, would come third, and that a fight on track between, well, just some drama between Lawson and Tsunoda. There kind of was a touch of drama in Lawson's radio message after Tsunoda crashed out of qualifying, but I don't think it really counts, and Perez was obviously so far away from the podium, he was basically still in Texas. So I get
think you jinxed
0
him.
points. You think I jinxed him? Yeah, well, I think maybe he jinxed himself. But anyway, Perez, I'm sorry that you didn't do well at your home race. I was rooting for you, bro. So yeah, nothing we can really do about that. Just to go over what Leah predicted. Leah predicted that Norris would win, Piastri would come second, and Charles would come third, and that there would be drama during the Pirelli test. There was not really any drama from the Pirelli test. So Leah just gets 1 point for P3 for Leclerc. Tay predicted that Leclerc would win, that Norris would come second, and Piastri would come third, and that Perez would be out of the points. So Tay collects 1 point for that. And
Ha 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 ha. Tay collects 4 points, not 1.
what?
Lando came second.
Oh. Well, look at that. I'm wrong again. Who would have guessed it? Okay, so congratulations to Tay for picking up 4 points. And then Kira said Norris P1, Verstappen P2, and Leclerc P3, and that Perez would DNF. Kira picks up 1 point for Leclerc P3. Now, let's have a look at how this has changed the leaderboard. In first place, we have Kira on 13 points. Congratulations, Kira. Tied in second place, we have Immy and Leah on 11 points.
Yay! Woohoo! Woo!
Tay has usurped fourth place with 9 points. Uno is unfortunately stuck on 7 points in fifth place. And Niamh has tripled her points haul from the season and is now sitting on 3 points. So congratulations, Niamh. You are still in fifth place, but you've had a very strong weekend, and hopefully you will continue with this form in Brazil.
Let's hope I can triple it there.
Yeah, that's the spirit.
So you want 9 points coming out of Brazil. So you better pick the winner. You better make sure you get that winner driver down.
I seem to be very good at jinxing. Like,
that's not a good sign.
Everything.
Oh, please predict Max Verstappen then, because I want this driver title fight to actually work out fun.
I will predict whoever causes the most drama. So I'm going to predict, you know how like in one of the F2 races, like 2 drivers cross the line at the exact same time?
Yeah.
I'm going to predict that for Max and Lando if I really, really don't want them to win.
Oh, okay, there you go. So wait, if you don't want Max to win and you don't want Lando to win and you're not a Ferrari supporter, who do you want to win, Niamh?
I want Charles to get the championship because my best friend is like the biggest Charles fan ever. But also I just
you
want
want
drama.
him to get the drivers' championship.
Yeah, I believe he can do it. She's holding me hostage right now.
We I mean, we need a proper double DNF from Verstappen and Norris for that to happen. But stranger things have happened, and it wouldn't be the first time a Ferrari driver has snuck in at the last minute to steal that championship. So,
Bring back 2007.
Yep, Kimi Räikkönen, the original don't give a fuck goat. So, let's see if you can pull it off, Niamh, in Brazil. And thank you to Immy and Niamh. And thank you for tuning into Traffic Paradise Radio. It looks like the road heading out of Mexico City is finally clear. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to follow us if you are listening on Spotify, or like and subscribe if you are watching us on YouTube. Also, we have a Discord server, which you can find linked in the description below, where you can join us to talk about the race, F1 in general, or just to say hi. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day or night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye! Cameraman doesn't die.
Okay. That's good for him, I suppose.